Okay, well here's our basic figure. Paint it all up in the base colors. Now let's try to do a little wash on here and we'll see how it goes. And let me explain a little bit before we do this on paint. If you paint your base coats with enamel paint, use a sealer such as Future Floor Wax to seal your figure if you're going to use an enamel wash. Because when you make a wash, you're thinning out the paint a whole lot so it doesn't stick on any of the highlights. It just falls in all the recesses. So with the mineral spirits or paint thinner that you use, it will usually tend to break your base coat down. So I use a rule of thumb like this. If I'm going to paint a figure with enamel paints, then I'll make a wash out of a latex base or a acrylic base paint. That way it doesn't attack my base coat. And then if I decide I want to still use enamels for the final dry brush, then that's okay. But if you decide that you're going to use enamels as your base, make sure that you seal it if you're going to use an enamel wash. That way you won't ruin your base coat. But with acrylics, it's a different story. You don't have to seal in between those coats because the layer you put on top will not attack the layer below it. So I can take an acrylic base paint and paint my first coat with acrylic, let it dry, and then I can take the next coat of acrylic and thin it way down to give that wash. And then once that's dry, then we can go ahead and put our dry brush coat in acrylic paint on top of it. And then when we're done with all that, we seal it. You know, and I like to use the old Model Master clear flat, and it seems to work rather well. But it'll seal your model. That way you won't have to worry about anything ruining your paint job. So without a further ado, we'll take this Life Color. It's the real dark navy sea blue, and we're going to give that Life Vest a wash in that, and then we'll use a russet brown. We'll use a russet brown wash for his uniform, and I'll probably use a German gray for his shoes to kind of darken those up some. But the flesh tone, we'll go with the flesh shadow. And if you notice, all these are Life Color paints. And then for his face, when we finish up on a dry brush, we'll use the Life Color light flesh. But let's go ahead with the washes. I like to use a bigger paintbrush when it comes to the washes. That way it holds a lot more paint. But we'll start with this navy blue, and we'll get a nice good little puddle of water going here to thin our paint, because we want to make it super thin where it just gets into those recesses. So Keep on adding a little bit of water till it's really almost the consistency of water itself. Because all you want to do is leave the tint in the recesses. And I've taken this figure and glued it to a bottle cap. That's the way it's easier. It's easier to handle, and if you handle it with your hands a whole lot, then you end up rubbing off the paint that you've already put on there. So we'll just take liberally spread yeah, that happens too. But we'll just take this wash and we'll liberally spread it over his uniform here in the back. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's usually drawn to all the creases and recesses. And being these blues are so close together, it might be hard to see, but I don't know if you can see that. But you see how it's fell into the crease along his belt that ties in the life vest itself. And we'll do some more up around the top, around the neck here. So you're not really changing the color, you're just darkening up all the recesses or the folds in the uniform. And you know, when you get around other stuff, just take your time, and it's worth the effort. I think altogether so far I've spent about 35 minutes on this figure, and you know, that's waiting on the paint to dry and picking out colors for the next step. So I don't know if you can see that. I'm hoping you can, since I'm making a video of this, but that's picking out his uniform, the life vest. And if you can notice around the ring, the neck ring, and any of the recesses in that, the darker colors have collected in those areas. And that's kind of what you want to give it a sense of depth. So being as we got that part done, we'll move on to the brown part of his uniform. Alright, and close this up. I'll wash my little paintbrush out and we'll start again. Let's see, I said I was going to use a russet brown. That's why I love it. Acrylic paints. They're so easy to work with, and the cleanup is real easy. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that, I don't think. But to each his own. So, alright, as we thin that down, we'll just add some of this to his uniform. And then again, you know, if you don't like the colors, you can always paint over it. That's the thing about doing figures, and of course any aspect of modeling. You know, you're only there to please yourself, so other people can comment, but the person who has to live with it is you. And if you're happy with what you're doing, then you know, to hell with everybody else. So that's kind of what I liked about the hobby anyway. There was no right or wrong, and everybody has their techniques, and this is mine. Everybody has their twist on their on the way they do things, and that's cool. But I'm hoping that what I do here, um, you take some helpful pointers off and apply it to your own modeling. That's the only hope anybody has. So the thing is about a wash, though, being it's so thin, it takes a little bit longer for this stuff to dry. And as it goes, I've dragged some of that wash from the blue into the uniform, but it doesn't really detract from it. If I can only hold on to the damn thing, but it actually, a lot of that will pretty much blend in when you do your dry brushing, and I think all in all it probably have a really positive effect as to the outcome of the figure itself. So all right, let's see. Okay, can you see how it's done fell into the recesses there? So we've changed the color of his uniform slightly, but when you do the dry brush of your final colors, then it all ties it in real well. All right, and last but not least, we go ahead and do his face, and we'll use Life Colors Flesh Shadow. Since we've used the base, we'll use the shadow color that they recommend in their set. So we'll just thin out some of that with a little bit of H2O, and we'll commence to giving that a wash. And I like to, when you do their hands, you know, it isn't as prominent. You see it in between their fingers, and if beforehand you wanted to scribe the scribe the indentions between their fingers to make them more prominent, you know, you can do that with a number 11 blade backwards. Just go slow, but I'm just going to use it like it is, and basically when we dry brush it, it'll really bring it out. So alright, add a little bit more wash here to the face. Okay, let's see. Alright, well there it is. I gave him a wash on his hands, his shirt, his uniform. The only thing I got left to do is his helmet and his shoes, which I'll use a German gray on that, just to kind of darken them up some. And this is a Vallejo model color, but it's also an acrylic, and it mixes really easy. But with the grays, especially the darker grays, it really does not take that much. So we'll pick out his shoes there. And this model will be, I'll bring it to the club meeting so you guys can look at it up close. But I don't know, can you see how it's collecting in the low spots on his shoes? And that's a pretty good picture of looking at the washes in general, how they've collected in the recesses of his uniform. And we'll go ahead and lay a little bit of this to his helmet. And that way it'll probably mostly collect around the rim of the hat itself, just because it's real thin. But like I said, this is probably the reason why most modelers don't like to do figures, because they're scared of it. So how's he looking so far, guys? I hope he's looking rather well. Alright, well, I'll let him dry, and when we come back we'll do our dry brushing, and hopefully we'll have us a decent looking completed figure.